We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. During MLK Day weekend, I often find myself listening to speeches and sermons by Dr. King. The speech he gave in Memphis before his assassination is one that always sticks out to me. I think often about how in the very final moments of his life, in the very final moments of what he would leave behind, he was pushing and fighting and championing on behalf of people. But last summer before last, summer of 2020, this speech spoke to me in a different way. That summer now forever etched in history as the political uprising of 2020. We saw protests break out all over the country. We saw an uprising of people, Black, white, brown, all over the country. As countless times we had to watch the killing of George Floyd on social media. Once again, a Black man losing his life at the hands of a white police officer. This summer was different. Having protested for over 2 weeks straight, it felt different. It was a call that for far too long, the injustices that have been in America for Black people and people of color must no longer be tolerated. No longer can the unjust system that makes the promise of liberty and justice for all have its knee on our necks. One could argue that we've made progress, that we've come a long way. Certainly, we must acknowledge the progress that we've made, but yet work remains to be done. En route to the March on Washington in August of 2020, my ears were even more attentive to this speech. I'm in awe as Dr. King paints this picture for us. We're listening to him, and he talks about if there were an opportunity to have a conversation with God about what time period he would live in. He talks through each of these time periods. But my ears peak as he says, I wouldn't stop there. Strangely enough, I would turn to the Almighty and say, if you would allow me to live a few years in the second half of the 20th century, I would be happy. He says, now that's a strange statement to make because the world is all messed up. The nation is sick. Trouble is in the land. Confusion all around. In listening to him in this moment, I immediately played back the portion of this speech and listened to him say it again. And I had to play it back another time and listen to him say it again. And after hearing him 3 times say this, I paused the speech. As I arrived to walk to the March on Washington, I sat and I thought about it. I immediately said to myself, as the speech reverberated so clearly in a way it never did before, Dr. King wasn't just describing a moment in history. It was April 1968. I certainly believe that Dr. King understood the assignment. He was leaving a legacy and a path for us as a people to come behind and eventually follow. But I believe he was describing 2020 and 2021. And now when we stand and sit in January 2022, we're not in person because we're in the midst of a pandemic. While we may not be in person, we're now joined together in spirit and in unity in this very moment. But we're fighting a second pandemic. gun violence. We see our homeless being treated as if they're not human. And equity far too often remains unrealized. But in spite of what exists all around us, all that's happening to us, there is still hope. But I want to challenge you today. I want to challenge you today and say, for the next few moments, help, I feel hopeless. Help, I feel hopeless. 1 Peter 5:10 gives us these words, and the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. Help, I feel hopeless. Before we can even unpack hope or what it means to be hopeless, you got to understand what hope is. Hebrews gives us this, that faith is the confidence in what we hope for, and assurance about what we do not see. Digging a bit further, the Greek word for hope, elpis, means to trust or to have confidence in. Help, I feel hopeless. I feel hopeless when I look at what I see in my community. I feel hopeless when I look at what I see in my family. I feel hopeless when I watch the news every evening. I feel hopeless when I scroll my timeline on Twitter and I scroll my timeline on Instagram. I feel hopeless when I look on Facebook and I see friends losing loved ones. I feel hopeless. Help, I feel hopeless. How do you have hope in a space, in a place, in a time where it seems hopeless? Help, I feel hopeless. One of my favorite things to do, when I go to the gym, I listen to rap music. One of my favorite artists, Lil Baby, says, it doesn't change overnight, but we've got to start somewhere. The feeling of hopelessness does not change overnight, but we've got to start somewhere. Why? Because there is a hope that remains. Help, I feel hopeless. And in the place of feeling hopeless, how do you find your hope again? How do you get to that place where you find that hope again? I believe that Dr. King, when he left this earth, I believe that Dr. King maximized the moment that he was giving. Time is the one commodity. Time is the one thing you cannot go to the mall and purchase. To be late means you miss opportunities. We know the sayings that we hear around time and the importance of being on time and the importance of arriving early. We know what it means, but time is something you never get back. Time is filled with swift transition. Time is the one thing you never get back. Time as a commodity means that at one point you come in the world as a child, and at another point you leave the world as a seasoned, aged individual. Time waits for no one. Time does not stand still. Time filled swift transition. Time you can never get back. So why waste time? Why waste precious moments? Why waste opportunities instead of taking advantage of every moment that you have? Maximize your moment. Oftentimes we find ourselves in a place of grappling and gripping with the thought of what it means to lose time. We forget that time, while it is precious, time waits for no one. But in understanding that time is not going to wait, and that we must maximize our moments, and that we must seize every opportunity that God gives us. We must seize the moments that he gives us, the opportunities that he gives us. We must seize them. And understanding that, time is not going to wait on anyone, we've got to do something. How will we find our hope again? If in this particular place we're saying to God, help, I feel hopeless. Help, I no longer have the confidence I once had. Help, I no longer have the ability to trust that things will work out. Help, I feel hopeless. How you find your hope again? Well, the way you find your hope again is found in this charge I give to you. I charge you to aim. A-I-M, aim. I charge you to aim, not as one who is at a gun range attempting to aim to shoot, not one who is on the basketball court attempting to take a shot and aiming for the hoop, not one on the football field trying to throw a pass, aiming towards your receiver. No, I charge you to aim. Firstly, I charge you to acknowledge your feelings. I charge you to acknowledge your feelings. We often, as people, try to push through every situation, every moment that we find ourselves going through. We find coping mechanisms. We work through our pain. We push through the disappointments. We push through the discomfort, all the while never acknowledging how we feel, never acknowledging our disappointments, never acknowledging our failures, never acknowledging our letdowns, never acknowledging how we feel. We take on this Superman-like approach as if we don't have a kryptonite. Acknowledge your feelings. Some years ago, I was in a car accident and I went to a therapist, went to a chiropractor, and the chiropractor, he says to me, Mr. Holcomb, I'm going to see where you're experiencing your pain and discomfort. And when I find that place, when you feel this discomfort, I want you to acknowledge it by raising your hand. Immediately, I became discomforted. Why do you want to find the place that is discomforting to me? Finds the place discomforting to me, I acknowledge it. He says, Mr. Holcomb, if you did not acknowledge how you felt, I could not find the place that we need to identify for you to get better. The reason why some of us don't have the ability to move beyond where we've been is because we don't have the capacity. We've not pushed ourselves to acknowledge how we feel. Help, I feel hopeless. I'm acknowledging that while I should have hope, I've been doing this work for so long. I should have hope. I've been doing this work for so long. I should trust that things are going to get better. I should have confidence that things will change, that things will be on the up and up. But the reality is I feel hopeless. Acknowledging your feelings is the first step to you being able to find your hope again. The first step in being able to find your hope again. After you acknowledge your feelings, you got to use your imagination. You got to use your imagination. I used to get in trouble in the 6th grade. Miss Sandra Williams, my 6th grade teacher, I often talk about her because there were so many life moments I had in the 6th grade. Miss Williams would say, Mr. Holcomb, you're daydreaming. You're drifting off. You're going left. You're going right. I would use my imagination every time I had the opportunity, every time I thought of a moment. And I got pushed away from thinking about my imagination. Ms. Williams said, Mr. Holcomb, you go far in life when you stop daydreaming. Little did I know that daydreaming, using your imagination, was not a bad thing. It wasn't until I got older that I recognized it. I saw it on my television. I didn't understand it. I saw it in other ways and in other avenues, but did not understand it. Walt Disney is $1 billion entity to this day. But it's a $1 billion entity because Walt Disney dared to have an imagination. Even when he was fired from his job because they said he was not creative enough. Even when he filed for bankruptcy. Even when told no by publishing companies, he kept his imagination. He kept his ability to dream. I charge you to continue having your imagination. I charge you to continue dreaming. I charge you to never lose hope in that dream. I charge you to use your imagination. So some of you today will leave this place, leave from this virtual moment in time, and you'll go back. You'll go back and you'll pick up some of the dreams you once had. You'll pick up some of the things that you once thought weren't attainable. You'll go back to that place like I had to in the 6th grade and dream again and have an imagination again and have a belief again that what? The God of all grace, after you've suffered a while, after you've had disappointments, after you've had to be ostracized, after you've had to be criticized, after you've had to lose, after you've had to suffer, that same God who we trust, that same God who we rely on, that same God will bring you to a place where you'll be established, you'll be settled, and he'll prosper you. The good thing about leadership, the good thing about good leadership is that the people benefit from good leadership. Bad leadership is a curse. Good leadership is a blessing. The people benefit from good leadership. Dr. King left us an example of what it means to have good leadership. The people benefited from Dr. King's leadership. We still benefit to this day from his leadership. I charge you to acknowledge your feelings. I charge you to use your imagination. Lastly, I charge you to move. Now, I don't mean move out of the District of Columbia. I hope all of us who are residents of the District of Columbia remain residents of the District of Columbia. And if you're not a resident of the District of Columbia, I hope that this charge will make you move to the District of Columbia. But I charge you to move. I charge you to move with intention. I charge you to move with purpose. I charge you to move even with discomfort. I charge you to move. I charge you to move with your dreams. I charge you to move with your renewed hope. I charge you to move. I charge you to aim, acknowledge your feelings, use your imagination. I charge you to move. I charge you to make movement. Leroy Butler played with the Green Bay Packers. Leroy Butler is one of the most successful defensive backs that the Green Bay Packers had. He's been now nominated multiple times to be selected to the Hall of Fame. Leroy's won a Super Bowl. But the thing I like about Leroy Butler is Leroy Butler has an almost impossible story. Leroy is born with a deformity. Leroy has braces on his legs. They try to teach Leroy to walk. Leroy goes to therapy day after day, and Leroy still can't walk. Leroy one day sitting in his wheelchair, braces on, is watching as the kids are outside playing, watching, and his sister runs by Leroy's chair, knocks Leroy out of the chair, and knocks his braces off. And immediately something happens in Leroy that causes him to remember every session he had, every discomforting moment he had, every challenging time that he had, every moment of pain. Something triggers in Leroy as his braces are knocked off and Leroy's laying there in the wheelchair, on the side of the wheelchair. And Leroy gets up, jumps up, and takes off running. How does Leroy go not from being able to walk, not from having people assist him to move around, but Leroy takes off and starts running? Leroy was no longer restricted by what prevented him from moving. I charge you to move. I charge you as you find your hope again, as you find your ability to trust again, as you find your ability to believe again, to have confidence again, to take off the things that prevent you from moving, to take away the things that prevent you from moving, and take off. So as you aim, as you acknowledge your feelings, as you use your imagination, as you make movement and you take off, acknowledge you to remember what it means to have hope, what it means to never give up on a dream, what it means to never allow your dream to die. That even in the face of adversity, you know that all things work together for the good of them that love God and are the called according to his purpose. That you know, no matter what you face, no weapon formed against you, no system, no sickness, no disease, no plague formed against you will be able to prosper. It may form, it may have the appearance that it will, but it will not prosper. I go back to Dr. King's picture painting, where he says, his statement acknowledges it was strange. He says, but I know somehow, only when it's dark enough can you see the stars. So as you aim, as you utilize the tools that God has given you, the wherewithal that he's placed on the inside of you, as you pick up your dreams again, as you pick up the things that you thought were dormant and could never happen again, as you acknowledge those feelings, as you utilize your imagination, as you make movement, remember that as you move, as you continue to move, you keep walking and you keep making movement. You keep making progress. There's a banker one day, New York City, is there to close a deal, a multi-million-dollar deal, falls in the ditch. They put caution tape up around the ditch. Folks start throwing things in the ditch, money, a book, cell phone. A man walks up, jumps in the ditch. The banker says, "You fool, why are you jumping in the ditch? We're now both in the ditch." He said, "Hold on for one moment. I was in this ditch before. I know that there's a tunnel that'll get us out that way. And if we keep walking toward the light, at the end of it, we'll get out." I charge you to keep walking toward the light. That even though there are moments you may feel hopeless, even though there are moments you may feel you need more help than you have, know that there's a hope that you've been charged with, that there's a belief that no matter what comes your way, you are greater than the situations that may present themselves before you. I believe that Dr. King's lasting legacy is that even in the face of adversity, even in moments of discomfort, even being attacked by dogs and brutally beaten and jailed time and time again, I believe his lasting legacy is that he did not stop walking. He did not stop moving. And so we have a hope today that if we keep moving, if we keep walking toward the light, at the end of that light, there's a tunnel. At the end of it, we'll see the fruition of what it means to have hope and a dream, both realized. Lastly, in summation, the speech, Dr. King, before he returns to his seat, he says, "I believe that one day we as a people, we will get there. I may not get there with you, but I believe we as a people, we will get there." And I almost feel that same spirit is encompassed upon us as a people. That if we keep doing the work, we as a people, we will get there. If we continue to have hope and we continue to hold fast to the dreams that we don't allow to die, we as a people, we will get there. So while you may feel hopeless in this moment, know that if you aim, know that if you acknowledge your feelings, you utilize your imagination, you make movement, you make the most of your moments. On the other side, there is hope. Thank you. And may God continue to inspire us all to keep moving and never lose hope, even when we feel hopeless.